Yes, so very warm welcome from my side. We talk about what's next, about the AI agents. We just heard a little bit about it. In that context of software engineering, we certainly come back to that topic because software engineering is, on the one side, very easy to explain and understand the value of AI. And on the other side, that's where actually lots of things happening at the moment. But agents are not only there when we talk about software engineering, but also in a variety of other domains. I'm very happy now to, first of all, hand over to Eli to talk about the business impact of AI cases, of agents, in a totally different field than software engineering, which is the creation of stories, the creation of content, and for that, very happy to hand over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Andreas. There should be a presentation. Is this going to work? Until it's up there, let me start out by asking y'all a question. Please, can you raise your hand for those of you that are actually using AI currently in your line of work? I would assume this is almost 100%. At a tech conference, that's pretty much to be expected. Now, please keep your hand up if you know the ROI of using AI in your line of work. Do you know the business impact it actually has on your bottom line? No one? That is, one, thank you very much. I do not believe that it's no one. But I expected it to be a lot less. And really, that is what it's all about, right? I mean, this is the year 2025 when we see AI make a real impact to our businesses. Now, at Burda, how's this going to work? I would really like to have my presentation. Anyone? Is there anybody of the team? I'm just going to continue to talk, but I would really like the presentation because I'm going to show you a couple of things that are going to be so much more powerful if you actually see what it looks like. So please make sure that this is coming up in just a minute. That would be great. So the question of business impact, how are we actually answering this? Burda is answering this through an AI platform. It's called AIssist. And it is sort of an enterprise solution that is very deeply integrated into our technological infrastructure. In this platform, we're integrating all kinds of different AI tools, all kinds of different AI technologies, from OpenAI to Whisper to DeepL, all kinds of different image generators, and they're all integrated in one single, easy-to-use platform. It is developed in-house. It's been around for about 2 years, and it is constantly evolving. It's still not up there. I would really like to show you. So currently, we have about 1,800 of our employees working on this platform, and it ranges from anything from corporate functions all the way to our editorial teams. What makes this really, like for us in terms of business impact, what makes a real difference is that it is deeply integrated into our production processes, meaning it's integrated into our digital asset management system, our content management systems, and that's what makes a seamless integration into our everyday business processes. I'm still waiting. Can you please put it up? Because now I really need to be able to show you. Because all of that was a lot of theory, and I know I don't want to bore you with theory. I just want to show you what it actually looks like. Yeah. Okay. All right. Sure, no problem. We'll do that. Did you hear what she said? So we're going to do the discussion at first, and then I'm going to do the impulse of telling you everything about how we're actually using this in publishing with 2 different use cases.
So we do it the other way around.
All right, we'll do it the other way around.
Sorry, guys. We get more time.
Sorry about that.
So what we're gonna see a little bit is how you actually implement AI in your everyday work. And we see, and I think that is when we talk about what's next, about what's currently possible. Now, that session is not only about what's currently possible, and it's certainly about now getting the ROI. We just saw what kind of everyone here is kind of using these tools, but the question is, no, there is something coming up.
Oh gosh, okay, let's start it. That makes it so much, wow. First, we'll do it this way around, right? Because otherwise this is gonna be so much easier for all of us. All right, I already told you this. I already told you that. This is what it looks like. So it's called, this platform that I was just talking about, it's called AIssist, and as you see, it has integrated a lot of different AI technologies into one single platform. But you've already heard the theory, so I'm not gonna repeat that. What I really wanted to show you, and why I was kind of a little ticked off that it wasn't gonna work, is I had originally planned to show you a short video clip of an interview with Kevin Costner. Now, unfortunately, because of like privacy laws and all kinds of copyright restrictions and whatnot, our legal department rightfully put up a red flag. So all I'm able to actually show you is this charming young man right here. It's Dominic Schutte, who's our editor-in-chief of Esquire magazine. And he was the lucky guy who actually got to interview Kevin Costner a couple of months back. And in this interview process, I would like to show you how he was actually able to utilize the full power of AIssist in our actual business process. So what he did was, at first, he prepared for the interview. And we have different interview templates based on ChatGPT. So that's what he did at first. Then after the interview, he uploaded the audio file into AIssist to get it transcribed. Here we're using Whisper for a transcription service, but we also added some speaker detection functionality and noise reduction for better output. The next part that he had to do is he had to translate the interview into German, for which we are using DeepL. Yeah, which is what you can see right here. Now, we also have a mobile version of AIssist. So in this particular case, it was a Zoom interview. But had this been a face-to-face interview, he could have actually taped it on his mobile phone and then uploaded it straight into AIssist and started the whole process from there. Now, this whole process, or all of this infrastructure, it's interconnected. So it was easy for him to extrapolate or extract the interview and export it into our templates of our editorial workflow system, and also our CMS for digital publishing. For none of those steps, he ever had to actually leave the platform. And that's actually what I meant when I was talking about that it's seamlessly integrated into our everyday business processes. I asked Dominic how much time it actually saved him to be using AI versus doing this whole thing on foot. And he says it saved him about 10 hours of work. So the business impact of that is actually, it's pretty apparent, right? Now, I also brought you another use case from a completely different part of our business, our kids publishing. And here we're operating in the realm of fiction, which opens up a whole new range of possibilities in terms of using AI. So, meet Tamani. Tamani is the main character of Lissy PONY. And Lissy PONY is the #1 girls magazine in Germany, and it's also available in most of European countries. It is developed and owned by our own kids publishing company, Blue Ocean Entertainment, and it is much more than just a magazine brand, though. We have all kinds of things from like toys, snuggly pets, pillows, puzzles, games, whatnot. So it's a pretty big deal, especially if you're a 6-year-old girl. Now, what makes this really different from the use case that I showed you before in the interview is that it is our own IP, and it is completely fictional, meaning in terms of copyright laws, personality rights, data privacy, we're talking a completely different ballgame. Now, I'm pretty sure most of y'all have heard of the outstanding results that the image generator FLUX by Black Forest Labs achieves. And probably you've used it. What you probably don't know is that they're based not very far from where Burda actually originated, which is in the southwestern part of Germany, in the Black Forest region. So we approached them a couple of months ago about a potential deeper cooperation beyond a mere integration of FLUX into AIssist. And they agreed. They agreed to give us early access to their fine-tuning API, with which we were able to train their model with Lissy PONY content. Now, that is a real game changer. This is a real game changer. Why is that, you might ask? For one, we're combining this outstanding image generator with our own brands, meaning we're able to generate, FLUX is able to generate Lissy PONY content according to our own specifications. So what used to be a very lengthy back and forth process between our editorial department and external illustrators now can be done in the time it takes to write a prompt. It takes mere seconds for Lissy PONY to go strolling in the Black Forest, visit Times Square, or come on stage at the DLD. All of those images that you see, they have been generated. They're not illustrated, and they're not redacted in any way. Now, what's next? Everybody's talking about Agentic. We're going to be talking about Agentic in just a minute. So at Burda, we're experimenting with different kinds of use cases in the Agentic workflows, and one of those use cases actually is the comic creation process. Once we have this Agentic workflow up and running, we're going to be able to generate entire comic plots and panels by training up different AI agents, sorry, as Tamani and her friends. That's not all of it, though. That's not the end of it. What we're really dreaming about is once we have access to a text-to-video solution by Black Forest Labs, we're going to be able to basically pursue business opportunities that we otherwise would have never been able to do. And we're already now dreaming about YouTube Shorts, anything from YouTube Shorts even to like feature films, having whole Netflix series or whatnot. None of that, we would have never done that because it's just prohibitively expensive if you do it on foot the traditional way. So circling back to what we're actually talking about, the business impact of Agentic. The business impact for us of using AI is huge, it's ginormous. And integrating Agentic workflows into our everyday business processes is going to be it's going to be even bigger. It's going to be the difference from like an incremental change to a fundamental change. And the motto of this conference is future positive, and that's kind of how we look at things, or how we'd like to look at things. AI enables us to do stuff that otherwise we would have never been able to pursue. Thanks.
So I think that was a super cool insight into, as I said, how you're using AI at the moment. And you touched a little bit in the end about the agentic workflows and kind of what's coming next. Before I ask you that question, just let me give you a little bit of a kind of overview about what, like AI agents, what is that? We talk about Gen AI, and you brought these examples of kind of lots of different tools that help every person to be a little bit better. You talked about 1,800 people, and they do their job more efficiently. Now, these agents are different. These agents act and execute autonomously. It's the next stage. It's a different level of questions and tasks you give these types of models. And you can think of either one very large agent that does everything in one large system, or you can talk about these specialized little agents and multi-agent systems that interact with each other. But it's not Gen AI a little bit better. It's a different way of using these types of systems, and that is what we are talking about. So now with that little bit of an overview, you mentioned agentic workflows. Now, when we look a little bit more deeper into that, how are you using that at PlanNet? What are you doing at Serviceplan overall when it comes to agentic workflows?
Yeah, for sure. So agentic workflows really are a big mind shift change for us because it enables us now to deliver services which traditionally have been only delivered by humans with the help of AI agents, right? And this is possible right now because these agentic workflows and all the research which has gone into it is so powerful. To explain it really briefly, the key insight is that if you basically use a language model and you ask to plan a task ahead and then follow the plan, the result becomes much better. If you ask a language model to do self-critique and to review what it did and improve based on this, the results get dramatically better. The third aspect of agentic workflows is that they can use tools, right? They can use basically any kind of software which has an API and also can use any kind of data source, which obviously makes the scope of what the agents can do and understand much broader. And the big thing, which is basically fueling right now this race which is happening, is the understanding that you can basically build teams of agents with specialized role to work together. And this is why we are all saying right now we are heading into a future where we have billions of agents handling all different kinds of aspects. And we as an agency, we have to explore it because we are heading into a world where software is delivering services. And this is basically how we embed this and see that this is really at a point where it's absolutely good enough to deliver services to our clients.
Let me follow up on two things, two aspects you mentioned. The one is, at the moment, there's a human who says, well, let's give me an agenda, and then let's follow that kind of list of tasks, or kind of let me review what you just created as a model output. So there is a human that reviews the results and gives the next task. Now, you mentioned these agents, and be it the multi-agent systems or be it one single agent, the agent itself decides of how to continue. So how do you kind of see at the moment the robustness of these types of systems? Do you dare to use these systems at work at the moment? And then the other question, how's the timeline? If not now, how do you see the developments in the past couple of months, and where do you think this is really ready to use?
So we are using them in the production right now. So we believe that they are robust enough. And there are three reasons why they can be robust enough. The first reason is agentic workflows, right? With agentic workflows, you can get to a point that basically the danger of hallucination, the danger of being incorrect, the danger of the agent team going rogue can basically be managed. The other really important aspect, and this is also the aspect where the human is really important again, these agents, they have long-term memory. So they build up a memory over time as more they're working. And at the memory build-up, it's really important that humans are basically coaching the team of agents. So we have employees who are working with these agents, helping them to build up their memory by constantly giving feedback. And at one point, you basically freeze the memory, and they have all the feedback from humans, and they continue to work in a really reliable way. I think the third aspect is you simply have to learn of what you can expect. I always tell our clients, agentic is really Pareto. It's like the result is expected to be an 80% result. And the last 20%, there's still a human who has to look over this, has to apply some context and common sense to see if this is really good for the occasion.
Can you give us a few examples of concrete application areas where you see kind of these types of tools happening?
Yeah, so we deploy now these services in research, in insights, in managing content and design. And the most popular service we have right now is really competitive analysis. I always tell everyone, everything which is intellectual hard work, right? It's not very creative, but it's basically following a process and unique common sense. This is great to be done with agents, and we started with a competitive analysis. So instead of spending days or weeks with a big team to research your competitive landscape and ask a certain question, the agent team can do this now in 1 to 2 hours, right? And the result is so good that you completely change your idea of how you can use a tool like competitive analysis, because suddenly it's good enough, it's super fast, and you can say, hey, tomorrow we have a meeting on a topic, let's run a competitive analysis as an input for the meeting, and that is truly a game changer.
Mm-hmm. Maybe Eli, on your side, where do you see kind of the power users in your organization, the ones that really apply these types of tools?
Agentic workflows, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, one you've seen, this is basically, I think this is a great example, actually, the comic creation process, where you actually have the whole storyline written out by one agent, and the other, and kind of like the supervisor agent orchestrating the storyline, the imaging of the comic panels, of which character is actually going to be like speaking. Having the character speak is all done by a different agent. So I think this is a pretty obvious example, or a pretty exemplary example. Another thing that we're working on is fact-checking. It is basically, I mean, we are a journalistic company, right? That's what we are at the core. And ensuring that our sources are accurate, that what we actually publish once we leave the realm of fiction is paramount for what we do. And we actually are working on having agentic workflows enable us to get better fact-checking, faster fact-checking, and checking against a larger basically source of different sources. Yeah. So that's another thing.
So I mean, it's really the core of kind of your jobs, of your business. And we see, and we talked about that software engineering on the one side, where you can use those agents as well. But also what we see, at least at appliedAI, is that there are some in kind of engineering and R&D for construction of new parts in the pharma industry, for production planning, for forecasting. So it's at the core of our businesses. Now, we talk about our industry here in Germany and Europe. Now, most of these models, and we saw a few, are not coming from Europe. We saw Mr.
Some are.
We saw Black Forest Labs. So there are some, but certainly the question is also, where are we in that game? Where are we in Europe on the tech side, on the application side? Maybe what is your take on? Maybe Ellie, on your side, the experiences with also the European model providers, but also from your side of what types of tools you're using and where you see Europe to be in that game. Maybe Ellie.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, you've seen that if we have the option to use European providers, we do that. I mean, we have DeepL, we have Black Forest Labs, we have Stability AI that we heard of this morning already. So we are trying to use European models if we can, but we don't compromise on quality. So I mean, yeah, in terms of like, we are using the US models, and we use them gladly. The way that we use it is more where we just ensure that all the data that we're using it's hosted it's either hosted in the European Union, or it's hosted in countries that adhere to the GDPR. So that's kind of our approach. If we can use Europe first, we do that, and we like to do that and like to promote it, but we don't want to limit our possibilities by not looking beyond the pond.
So I think we all have to be aware that we are witnessing now the beginning of the biggest wealth transfer in history, right? This is what is happening right now. It's tackling $1 trillion industry. We are starting to delivering services through software. Imagine how big this market is also in Europe. And what is really important is that we as Europeans, we are not sitting at the wrong side of the transfer. Right? At the moment, there are a lot of startups getting funded in Silicon Valley, which have the whole goal to capture as much market share of the service industry as possible. If you look at the interview Satya Nadella just gave over Christmas, right? He said that basically the great thing about Microsoft is right now that Excel, Word, they go into the background, they become tools for agents, and that agents can deliver now also the service. So this is mind-blowing, right? Microsoft is going after services. And I think what is really key for us Europeans is to not just let this happen and watch how it's happening, and we all, 2 years down the road, are wondering how all our services got replaced by startups in Silicon Valley. So I think it's really important right now from Europe, from Germany, to start to invest into replacing our own services with agents, to really start to figure out how is this working, how can our service industry start to benefit from agentic AI. And I also think we Europeans, we think differently about security and trustworthiness, right? We need to think about how can we basically enable this agentic economy, which is for sure on the rise, to work under European expectations and standards, right? So next week at Davos during the World Economic Forum, we are doing one small bit in part of this game, a Serviceplan. We are launching a new kind of network which is called Mazumi. So Mazumi is supposed to be a blockchain-based protocol which is enabling agents to get identities of creators who are verified. These agents can be held accountable for the output they do because they have to be logged. And this is the most important thing, these agents are able, through the Mazumi protocol, to pay each other. I think these are ingredients which are really key for European enterprises to benefit from it, to see this market evolve. And what we do is we make sure that everything which is happening there is in accordance with MiCA regulation, with the EU AI Act, and also with GDPR. And I think we Europeans, we definitely have to wake up. We have to be really fast and understand what is really happening right now and don't sit on the wrong side of this transfer.
Now, I mean, I built up the appliedAI with that goal of keeping Europe competitive, the industry competitive, working with quite a few hundred companies there. And it's a challenge also on the application side. You mentioned the AI Act. The AI Act certainly is another hurdle to kind of get into a trustworthy mode of AI. We now start with the Ministry of Digital here in Bavaria, the AI acceleration kind of idea of being as fast as possible to apply AI, but it's all an effort. Now, you mentioned two particular things that I really find interesting, and I want to dive deep in the last few minutes on that one. The one is, you said, well, we need to think about the organizational frameworks in which these models can't go rogue. I mean, it's still not robust enough. There will still be some kind of deviations from an optimal line. But you need to think about the way of how you set up your organization to be able to use these types of models. That's the one thing. The second is, also what you meant. You trained the FLUX model from Black Forest Labs with the content that you have. You kind of educated them. You also talked about the education of these models in a way that these are kind of new employees in your organization. And there's that famous kind of a quote from Jensen Huang, who says the software engineers will be the new HR department of that new class of employees that you have in your organizations, which are the agents. How ready are we in Europe, in our organizations, to think about really changing the processes, the org model, to fit to agents, and how ready are we that a software engineering team becomes an HR department of a new type of employees? Maybe from your experience also in your work now, how was the adoption? How open were employees to really start thinking differently, also from maybe workers' council to the employees to a management?
I mean, the approach that we chose, which I actually shared in the beginning with a platform, is kind of to make it as easy as possible for everybody to use. That's what I meant with like the seamless integration into our business processes. I think you always have like the top tier of early adopters, of the software engineers, the people that are just super interested in doing this out of their own motivation. But beyond that, I think it's in our interest as a company to make it as easy as possible to give, to kind of enrich it with training, to make it for everybody to kind of have a chance to adopt it. You'll always have a share of people that are like, okay, this is not for me anymore. And in the line of business that we have, that's not terrible. Like there's going to be we're a very traditional company in parts that'll be okay too, but. To kind of make it as easy and as fun and as kind of like part of your everyday as possible. That's kind of our approach to it. Yeah.
I mean, you work with lots of companies also as Planet, as Serviceplan. How do you see it and experience it in your work?
So look, I'm 44 years old. I'm born 1980. My whole life I spent basically with computers, seeing the internet rise. And I just gave a speech to our whole company on what is happening right now. And I think the thing what is happening right now is that the last 3 decades, We have been slowly in the hockey stick, basically growing in digitalization. And what is so hard to understand right now is that we are at the end of the hockey stick. And everything is moving so freaking fast that even for me, who has grown up for 30 years with digitalization, I can't fathom how fast everything is happening right now. And what I say to our people is right now, please stop the mindset, it's not good enough. We can do it better, this will not be there yet. Because over the last 2 or 3 years, I have been wrong so many times. I have never been wrong so often in my entire career on predicting how fast something will evolve. And I think the honest answer is we are not ready. It feels like science fiction right now, what is happening. And the first thing we need to do is to accept it is not science fiction anymore. And then basically you take it from there and think about, okay, shit, it's really happening. So if it's happening under this assumption, what do we need to do now? And I think this should be the guiding principle.
So we already are out of time, but I have one last question for you. As these agents, if you just think about what we heard from in the last session on software engineering, now in that session, the impact of these agents, if they're really performing at a human level, will be dramatic. It will totally change the way organizations work. It will totally change the workforce. Chancellor Wang talks about 1 billion people affected. Zuckerberg talks about kind of majority of the more junior software engineers kind of being replaced by agents at some point in time. Is 2025 the year about what's next, or is it later? What is your expectation when that impact will be there?
Well, learning from my past mistakes, I normally would say no, probably not, but probably it will be, right? So, I mean, Zuckerberg said last week that he thinks in 2025 will be the year that basically Meta can replace software engineers until the mid-level. So I would say let's go for it, 2025, it's definitely happening.
What's your take?
Well, I think the year 2025 is going to be the year where we actually see a real business impact, actually. I think in our line of work, it's not going to eradicate 50% of, the work that people have to do. That is just, that's not, there's no way that this is going to happen. What it will do is that this year we're definitely going to see a big impact in like new things that we can actually do. And that's kind of what we very much focus on too in this year, like actually getting the business impact, exploring new opportunities that not are only shiny and new, but that actually make a difference in the business.
Okay, so we have that kind of year of AI agents now coming. Organizations are not yet ready, but I mean, it's on us to actually change that and to stay in the game in the AI race. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your insights.
Thank you.